I saw Endgame this afternoon, and overall, I really enjoyed it. And because it has only been out for a few days now, it would be an awful thing to talk in detail about it. But similarly to what I did with Infinity War, I would like to point out a few things that I think were done well without spoiling anything, and that's honestly pretty easy to do because it was a well made movie. I would say the characters were interesting and well written. Obviously, this is the culmination of a lot of different movies where these same people show up, so it is unsurprising, but that doesn't mean it's a guarantee. So I really appreciated that the 11 years put into developing at least a couple of these characters were not wasted. I would say the cinematography was unsurprisingly good. Had a good time watching it, and not just because the editing was fantastic, but because the initial cinematography was fantastic. The special effects were about as good as they get. I know there were a couple things. There's always some type of shot in a movie that has a lot of CGI that takes me out of it. I don't think there's been a single movie with a lot of CGI that hasn't had one of those moments for me, besides like The Jungle Book, which is almost entirely CGI. It's very difficult to pull off in every single frame where CGI is used, and I understand that. So I'm willing to give it a pass. So, with that in mind, I think it was done very well. And I think the biggest thing is that the the story is told in a way that respects our time. I was not expecting that, to be perfectly honest. 3 hours is an insanely long time to sit in a movie theater for one movie when it's the when it's that type of movie, you know? I think if it's like a double feature, or if it's something like The Sound of Music that is pretty darn close to 3 hours, those are things that you excuse. But when it's a superhero movie that's 3 hours, you're like, okay, is this just going to be boom smash them the whole time? And it wasn't. There was a good number of the scenes in the beginning of the movie and the middle of the movie that were not just people exploding things and hitting each other. And I require that in my superhero movies and in my action movies in general. I need scenes with dialogue to make them more make the action scenes pay off better, I guess. And for the 3 hour runtime, Endgame did a good job of holding my attention the whole time and not irritating me with the number of explosions or the number of blurry, fast paced, too close to the people fighting type shots, because that sometimes does happen in superhero movies. So those are things that the movie did well. And I'm going to leave it at that, because why not end that on a positive note, especially when we're avoiding talking about the actual details of the movie. Happy Sunday. Happy Endgame weekend to the people that care enough about it to call it that. I am far more excited about Star Wars, but who's surprised there? And if we're being honest, far more excited about the second stage of Marvel movies that include more Black Panther and more Captain Marvel. Please, more Captain Marvel all the time. And this is just the beginning of a very long franchise, even though it's been 11 years. They got a long ways to go. We know this. So we might as well buckle in.